Hello, today we are going to discuss on topic audit planning and fieldwork.
On this topic, we have audit program, audit documentation, and internal control. First is audit program. Audit program is a set of procedures that an auditor believes is necessary to perform and obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statements are not material misstatements.
Next is purpose of audit program. Purpose includes guiding audit staff in audit work, provide evidence of proper planning and recording, standardize the data collection and evaluation process. There are two types of audit program. 1. Standardize. Secondly is tailored.
Standardize explains, standard working paper are used on all audit for efficiency and proper delegation, control and review. Standardize also pre-prepared listing of objectives and tests which may be used in any audit. Next type of audit program is tailored. Tailored use different working paper to suit different types of clients' business. Some of the audit program need to be tailored to the specific circumstances of the engagement as all clients are different. Tailored audit program helps auditors to carry out the objective of an audit.
The next subtopic is audit documentation. Audit documentation consists ISA 230 and working paper. ISA 230 is auditor should document matters which are important in providing evidence to support the audit opinion and evidence that the audit was carried out. What is working papers? It is material that auditors prepare or obtain and retain in connection with the performance of the audit.
Reasons in working paper. 1. Basis for planning the audit. 2. Record the evidence accumulated and the results of the audit tests. 3. Data for determining the proper type of audit report. 4. Basis for review by supervisors and partners. 5. Evidence audit works being performed in accordance with approved auditing standards.
The confidentiality of the working paper are. Confidential information prepared during audit engagement are the property of the auditors and retained at auditor's office. It can only be provided to third party with permission of the client. And appropriate procedures should be undertaken to maintain confidentiality and safe custody of working papers.
There are two types of working papers. First is permanent audit file, which is used more than one financial year and file is built only one. Auditor's working paper file that contain data of continuing importance from one year to another. Next type is current audit file, which pertain to a particular financial year where auditor's working paper file that contain data applicable to the current year under audit. A good working papers consist, clear audit objective, the name of client, subject matter, year-end. State full extent of the test or audit objective. Also, reference of linked documents. How sample size were determined. Then clearly and objectively state the results of the test. Of course, the conclusions reached should be consistent with result of the test. Have main reference. Signed and dated by preparer and reviewer.
What is internal control? It is entity's system of internal control that consists of policies and procedures designed to provide management with reasonable assurance that the company achieves its objectives and goals, including reliability of financial reporting, compliance with applicable laws and regulations, effectiveness and efficiency of operations.
Management and auditors' responsibilities. Management is responsible for preparing the financial statements, and the contents of the statements are the assertions of management. The auditor is responsible for examining management's financial statements and expressing an opinion on their fairness.
Why auditor need to understand internal control? To obtain info integrity management, to identify errors and fraud, to assess the control risk, to plan and design audit test.
Internal control objective 1 to ensure orderly and efficient conduct of business in respect of systems being in place and fully implemented. 2 to safeguard the assets of the bossiness. To prevent, detect and fraud for the financial disagreements that might be result of theft or fraud. 4 to ensure the timely preparation of financial information to statutory reporting.
Components of the internal controls. According to ISA 315 is to identify and assess the risks of material misstatement through understanding entity and its environment. The environment states that auditors need to understand an entity's internal control. There are 5 components of ICS. 1. Control environment is the attitude toward internal control and maintained by the management and the employees of an organization. 2. The entity's risk assessment process that are events that threaten the accomplishment of objectives. 3. The information system is useful info between and among people and organizations to support decisions and coordinate activities. 4. Control activities are tools for both manual and automated that help prevent or reduce the risks that can impede accomplishment of the organization's object. 5. Monitoring is the review of an organization's activities and transactions to assess the quality of performance over time and to determine whether controls are affecting.
Evaluation of internal control.
Auditor should ascertain enterprise's system of recording and processing transactions and should record and assess ITS adequacy as basis for the preparation of financial statement.
Methods employed by auditor to ascertain IC system. Examine previous audit work. Interview with client staff. Examine client's document. Observe client. Walkthrough test.
Documenting understanding of internal controls. Tool used by auditor to document understanding of internal control system.
Narrative description. 4. Character of proper narrative. 1. Origin of every documents. 2. All process that takes place. 3. Disposition of every document. 4. Indication of control relevant. Internal control questionnaires. IT require a yes or no response, where no indicating potential internal control deficiencies. Flowcharts. Advantages of flowcharts are, provides a concise overview of client's system. Helps in identifying inadequacies. Easier to read. Easier to update.
There are 4 phases of process understanding internal control. Phase 1 is 3 methods that commonly used by auditors to obtain and document their understanding of the design of internal control are narratives, flowcharts, and internal control questionnaires. The auditor must also evaluate whether the designed controls are actually placed in operation. Phase 2. Phase 2 have 2 specific assessments that must be made to arrive at the preliminary assessment. The first assessment is whether the entity is auditable. This is determined by considering the integrity of management and adequacy of the accounting records. To determine assessed control risk supported by the understanding obtained assuming that controls are being followed. Phase 3 is for design, perform, and evaluate tests of controls. If the results of tests of controls support the design and operating of controls as expected, the auditor uses the same assessed control risk as the preliminary assessment. If the auditor wants a lower assessed control risk, more extensive tests of controls are applied. Phase 4, decide plan detection risk and substantive tests. The greater the control risk, the lower the detection risk the auditor can accept. To lower detection risk, the auditor performs more substantive testing. Letter of management. Letter of management is a letter written by company management that confirms the accuracy of an audit.